good with that. She taught me love, she taught me patience, and she handles pain. That shit's amazing. I've loved and I've lost, but that's not what I see. Look what I found, ain't no need for searching, and for that I say
reharmonization is the process of coming up with new chords for a melody. And today we're going to be doing that with Ariana Grande's Thank You Next. If you think of chords as color, it's kind of like applying a musical hue shift to the melody. Same music, but slightly different perspective. So a warning before we begin, we're going to be doing some harmonic analysis. So if you're lost, don't worry, this is all in the service of a higher compositional goal, and that is storytelling. Keep that in mind as we go through this. Anyway, the original harmonic progression of Thank You Next is actually fairly colorful to begin with. It's in the key of B flat minor.
Thought I'd end up with Sean, but he wasn't a match. Wrote some songs about Ricky, now I listen and laugh.
We start with a G flat major 7, the flat 6 in the key of B flat minor. Then we go to F7, the dominant 5 chord, which points us to B flat minor 7, the tonic 1 chord. Finally, we go to D flat 7, a secondary dominant, or a 5 chord that doesn't point us back to the 1. In this case, it is the 5 chord in the key of G flat, which just so happens to begin the whole loop. So approaching this, what other colors from our harmonic palette can we use to paint the melody of Thank You Next? How can we apply this musical hue shift? Well, the original is in the key of B flat minor, so let's try something in its relative major, D flat, same notes, different tonic. What might that sound like?
Thought I'd end up with Sean, but he wasn't a match. Wrote some songs about Ricky, now I listen and laugh.
The loop starts on D flat major 7, the tonic 1 chord and thumbnail to this video. Then goes to D flat 7, that secondary dominant chord that points to G flat, or in this case, G flat 6-9. Nice. The 4 chord in the key of G flat, and then G flat minor 6-9. Nice. A modal interchange chord from the parallel minor. 4 going to 4 minor has a sort of wistful, almost bittersweet quality to it. Already the melody, and by extension the lyrics, has a much different implication with this reharmonization. Now, if the melody allows it, we could repeat this progression to create a cyclic chord progression, one that literally loops over and over again to create a sense of unity over the course of a composition. But I always felt that you could tell more of a nuanced story through harmony by breaking out of that loop. For me, it can be a fun exercise to think of notes in a melody as characters and the chords that go with them, their character traits. For example, the verse melody of Thank You Next goes back frequently to A flat, so I think, in the context of the key of D flat, what does A flat mean with an A flat 7 chord? Well, to me it's fairly regal, but in a way that's kind of boring and obvious, like this character is a one-dimensional throwaway, which doesn't make a lot of sense here. We keep returning to the A flat, so in my mind, the A flat is the central character of the story. Well, what about against a D7 sharp 9 chord, A flat 7's tritone substitution voiced in a fairly Ellingtonian sort of way? Now A flat is more interesting and nuanced, it's veiled, it's foreboding, it's past shrouded in a kind of ominous aura, but maybe you still sense its regal power. When you resolve D7 to the tonic, you learn more about the A flat's past, like, turns out the A flat wasn't the bad guy that it was foreshadowed to be. This is such a fun creative exercise for me, so with that in mind, let's see what else we can do with the verse melody.
Even almost got married, and for Pete I'm so thankful. Wish I could say thank you to Malcolm, cause he was an angel.
Here we go to F minor 7, the 3 in the key of D flat, then descend a 5th to B flat 7, the 5-7 of 2, and finally descend a 5th again to E flat 7, the 5-7 of 5, which is a fairly bright color in the key. This E flat 7 chord comes about as a sort of punctuation, like we're emphasizing the lyric thankful.
Married, and for Pete I'm so thankful.
It sounds mildly sarcastic. For Pete, I'm so thankful, but like lightheartedly sarcastic. There's not a lot of spite in the color of the chord, but that can change if we change the chord to something like a G flat minor major 7.
And for Pete I'm so thankful. Wish I could say thank you to Malcolm.
Now there's a fair amount of bitterness and malice in the lyric, and I'm not sure if that's the story that I want to tell here. This is the power of harmony, by the way. It's the power to tease out different shades of meaning from melodies and lyrics and express them through sound.
And for Pete I'm so thankful. Wish I could say thank
Now, knowing that, how should we approach harmonizing the pre-chorus?
One taught me love, one taught me patience, and one taught me pain. Now I'm so amazing. I've loved and I've lost. That's not what I see. Look what I've got. Look what you taught me, and for that I say.
Here we start with a B flat minor, the 6 minor in D flat, but also the tonic of the relative minor, B flat. The next chord is A major 7, which is strange, but we can justify this by saying that it's the flat 6 major 7 in the key of D flat, a modal interchange chord borrowed from the parallel minor. The move from 6 minor to flat 6 major is actually fairly common in older styles of songwriting. You can hear it in What a Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong, but it sounds particularly piquant here. It's somewhat rare for flat 6 major 7 to return to 6 minor. It then sounds, well, kind of alien and mysterious. The pre-chorus is Ariana Grande talking about her past experiences and how they've made her the person that she is today. The present is made by the past, and that's kind of what we're doing here with the harmony. A little bit of a stretch, I know, but it's a new sound that's deeply indebted to older sounds. And then there's this strange chord. B flat 7 over G flat. The harmonic justification of this chord is that B flat 7 is the dominant 7th chord in the key of E flat, and G flat is the minor 3rd in the key of E flat minor. So in the common practice, G flat is treated as sort of an accented passing tone and resolves like this. The melodic justification of this chord is that it comes with the highest point in the melody, otherwise known as the apex. Melodic apices are points of high drama, the highest point of tension, which is reflected in the very tensious B flat 7 over G flat.
Amazing, I've loved and I've lost.
The emotional justification of this chord is that it occurs on the lyric, I've loved and I've lost. And I've always felt that this particular chord feels like a pang of emotion, like a sudden sharp feeling of regret or worry. But ultimately, the musical justification of the chord is, it just kind of sounded good to me at the time. I want to make it clear, when we write music and make any musical decision, anything can be justified after the fact. Really, we could have just put any chord there and come up with a list of emotional and harmonic justifications for it. To quote Vincent Persichetti in 20th Century Harmony, any chord can go after any chord. And ultimately, it's just up to a person's taste in deciding what to choose. But it still helps to be aware of these things when making these decisions, because harmony has a real effect that's widely culturally understood. For example, when recording this Thank You Next reharm, the drummer Josh Bailey made a 4 minor major 7 motion at the end of a take.
Sounded good to me, man.
Yeah, that was a good one. What's the quality of that chord? Minor major 7?
Oh, at the end, yeah. Yeah.
You can basically see the emotional core of the harmony in his body.
Sounded good to me, man.
This feeling of bittersweetness and the story that I wanted to tell as it related to the lyrics can be expressed in different ways other than just in harmony, like for example, through orchestration. I had my friend Meitar record Violin. Strings are always nostalgia-inducing. We tracked multiple versions of several violin parts, so it kind of gives the impression of a full orchestra. I also had my friend YAEVIN come in and sing and do her best Ariana Grande impression.
Even almost got married, and for Pete I'm so thankful.
Nice, you want to do...
Let's do one more.
Yeah, one more? Yeah. So we're recording multiple versions of the same line over and over again, and we're gonna pan it hard left and right, which makes it sound really big.
I thought you were talking to me. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I know,
yeah.
I know you know. I know. I know you know. I'm telling the nice people on the camera.
I thought that was my idea. Okay.
Here we go. The sound of a clean jazz guitar solo has always felt fairly nostalgic to me, so I had my friend Rotem come in and play some jazz guitar. Harmony is one way that musicians tell musical stories. I enjoy a good jazz chord because in the right context, it can add a surprising amount of nuance to a melody and shade it in a meaningful and expressive way. Knowing this, I hope that you enjoy this little reharmonization of Ariana Grande's Thank You Next.
Wrote some songs about Ricky. Now I listen and laugh. Even almost got married. And for Pete I'm so thankful. Wish I could say thank you to Malcolm, 'cause he was an angel. One taught me love, one taught me patience, and one taught me pain. Now I'm so amazing. I've been loved and I've been lost. That's not what I see. Look what I've got. Look what you taught me. And for that I say thank you. Next, next, thank you. Next, next, thank you. Next, I'm so fucking grateful for my ex. Thank you. Next, next, thank you. Next, next, thank you. Next, I'm so fucking grateful for my ex. Spend more time with my friends. I ain't worried about nothing. Plus I met someone else. We having better discussions. I know they say move on too fast, but this one gon' last. Cause her name is Ari, and I'm so good with that. She taught me love, she taught me patience, and she handles pain. That shit's amazing. I've been loved and I've been lost, but that's not what I see. Look what I found. Ain't no need for searching. And for that I say thank you, thank you, next. Thank you, next. I'm so fucking grateful for my ex. Thank you, next. Say thank you, next. Yeah, I'm so fucking grateful for my ex. Thank you, next. 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 I'm so fucking grateful for my ex.
So, this video will definitely be demonetized because I used a copyrighted work in the pursuit of teaching harmony, my own harmony, but a copyrighted work nonetheless. It's kind of awkward because music is both a cultural expression, a language, as well as a product, which can be owned by individuals, which puts me in the position as an educator where it's hard for me to talk about a cultural expression and talk about the musical language because of the intellectual property laws. I would love to have the opportunity to purchase an educational license so I can do this sort of video more often, but no such license exists yet. Until that happens, though, I just want to say thank you to everybody who has supported me on this channel over at Patreon, because they are the people that make this content possible. If you enjoyed the cover in this video of Thank You Next, go over to Spotify and Apple Music, because there are cover licenses that I can purchase, and I have purchased them, but no educational licenses. Strange. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and thank you next.